Hey there fellow adventurers, I am Sunshade and today we're gonna take a dive into the Ruby Life Pools dungeon and talk about all you should know about it, what to dodge, what to interrupt, and how to complete the dungeon in a timely manner. This guide will be a part of a playlist containing all of the Dragonflight Mythic Plus dungeons with updated mechanics for Season 4, so if you're interested in more of this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and keep updated on every new video and livestream. All of my dungeon routes can be found on the Keystone Guru website, and I will post the links to them in the description below. And you can also grab my player profile as I use it to mark important targets with pink and interruptible ones with blue. More details about the colors and cast bars can be found in the description on waygo.io, where you grab the profile. The link to it is also in the description below, or simply go to waygo.io and type Sunshade. It should be there. Now, let's get into the dungeon. The trash before the first boss is varied but not difficult. We have the Primal Juggernaut casting an excavating blast you need to dodge unless you enjoy flying up, and a crushing smash which hits your tank pretty hard. Cleave him down with the smaller mobs in the next pack, which is formed of Primal Terra Sentries, Flash Frost Earthshapers, and Chillweavers. Make sure to CC the Earthshapers when they cast Tectonic Slam. This attack deals AoE damage to the entire group. The Chillweavers need to be interrupted when casting Ice Shield on their allies, protecting them from damage and giving them immunity to CC and interrupt effects, so this is a priority spell to stop. You can DPS through the shield or even purge it, but it's much faster and easier to interrupt it, isn't it? You should also interrupt their Ice Bolts if you have any interrupts to spare. Dodge the eggs on the way, as stepping on them, either you or the mobs, will spawn infused whelps, who will try to freeze you with their Primal Chill debuff. Interrupt their casts and cleave them down quickly. Your healer will be able to dispel the debuff if things get too serious. In the boss room, we have Defiler Draghar, the first mini-boss we encounter in this dungeon. Dodge his Blazing Rush charge attack and try to bait him into a wall for better uptime. His Tank Buster attack is called Steel Barrage, so tanks use the defensive and everyone else dodge the swirlies on the floor. The first boss is generally pulled to the edge of the platform in order to save space and have more movement possibilities later on, and all players should stay stacked as much as possible for their Hell Bombs attack, which places swirlies under everyone's feet, later transforming into icy spikes. Running over these will deal damage and apply Primal Chill to you just like the whelps, so either avoid them or clear them with an immunity. Keep moving together as a group and spawning the swirlies in a nicely organized fashion to keep the room clear. Another attack she has is Chill Storm, targeting a player with a large circle. Run and drop this far away from the group. At the end of the cast, this will drop a whirlwind, trying to drag everyone inside, so make sure you are safe from the spikes and run away from the whirlwind, which also does constant AoE damage to the group and even more to the player within the circle. The pull is also stronger the closer you are to the wind, so try to be on the opposite side of the room, and if you are the target of the whirlwind, use whatever speed ability, teleport, gateway, or dash you have to get out of it. Priests, paladins, and evokers are very useful here to help out players who don't have much speed themselves. After a couple of seconds, the group will get pushed away instead of towards the whirlwind, so again watch your positioning and don't hit the icy spikes. The tank will have to deal with her Frigid Shard attack by pressing a defensive spell once in a while. Her next attack is Awaken Whelps, where she will spawn them from the egg clumps around the room. Keep the whelps stunned, interrupted, and cleave down quickly to avoid the tank getting frozen, but do your best to cleave them down on the boss and not before. First of all, better stacking of targets, letting the whelps come to you, and secondly, the boss will still need to be DPS during this time as she starts casting Frost Overload after summoning the whelps, but also buffing herself with an Ice Bulwark shield, so you need to break down the shield in order to interrupt her AoE damage dealing overload. Grab a Drake to fly up to the next area and run around in a circle clearing these blaze-bound destroyers, the big fire elementals, in order to spawn the next boss. At both ends of the circle there are two mini-boss Drakes, and I sincerely recommend avoiding the fire one. But as the rules have been drawn that we must always go left in this game, otherwise we are psychopaths, let's start with Thunderhead, the Storm Dragon. His most obvious ability is Storm Breath, a frontal cone attack towards a random party member, which you should obviously dodge. Thunderjaw is a tank mechanic dealing nature and physical damage, but also pushing back the tank, so pop a defensive spell and watch your positioning to avoid pulling packs you don't want. Rolling Thunder is the most painful ability, I would argue, as he places a magic debuff on two party members. The ability will do AoE damage when dispelled or when it runs out, so the way I like to deal with it when healing is by dispelling one of the debuffs quickly, topping everyone off as much as possible, and letting the second debuff run out. Nearby, on the edges, you can find Primal Shockcasters, which are generally not pulled for percentage, as they take way too long to kill, they are dangerous, and also alone, so can't really cleave them too well. Their Unlucky Strike is a curse placed on a random player which will deal moderate damage while ticking down, and a lot of damage when it expires, also stunning its target. Their second attack is an interruptible lightning bolt. The rest of the packs in the area are formed of the Blazebound Destroyers we mentioned, Primalist Cinder Weavers, and Flame Dancers. The Destroyers place a living bomb on a party member, which will deal damage and push them upwards when it expires. Players should avoid standing in the circle, but the target of the attack should go into melee and place it on the Primalist trash, as the trash is also affected by it. Healers should make sure that everyone is topped off before the Inferno cast comes through, and when the Destroyers die, they channel a last Burnout, a long cast which deals a lot of damage to anyone in it, so run out quickly and move on to the next pack. The Cinder Weavers in the packs have an interruptible Cinder Bolt, so use your interrupts on that, and the Flame Dancers are your priority target after the Elementals. These are the mobs you want to drop the living bombs on to push them upward due to their Flame Dance, which deals large amounts of AoE damage during the channel, but also on the end of it, so try to CC them as much as possible. At very low health, they choose to go down in a blaze of glory, creating swirlies and dealing AoE damage all around. If you just purge their buff, you don't really need to deal with any of that nonsense. Closing in on the last packs of the circle, if you start left, you may notice Flame Gullet flying around and sometimes landing near other trash mobs. We generally choose to skip him by pulling the packs up these stairs here, or just pull everything far out of his way and keep an eye on his movements in order to not get a sneak attack. If you do happen to pull it, and it will often happen in pugs, here's how you deal with him. First of all, he's a dragon, so of course he has a frontal breath attack, so dodge it. The tank will need to pop a defensive when Fire Maw is cast, as it will deal fire and physical damage to them. Now, the hard part. When the dragon reaches 50% health, it will start stacking up Molten Blood, making him deal increased damage really fast. So if you take too long to kill him, your healer may not be able to keep you alive. Pop your defensives when he is low health, and maybe even DPS cooldowns, especially in fortified weeks. Kokia Blazehoof is the second boss, and she features 3 distinct attacks that demand attention. At 100 energy, she unleashes Ritual of Blaze Binding, summoning a Blazebound Firestorm near a party member. Position yourselves where you want to spawn the ad, and then move away from the swirly where the ad spawns, and then coordinate to eliminate it alongside the boss. The ad remains stationary, requiring you to bring the boss to it. Additionally, watch out for the Elemental's Inferno ability, inflicting AoE damage and leaving a dot on your party. Make sure interrupts are rotated for its Roaring Blaze cast, which also deals AoE damage. As you are dealing with the Elemental, Kokia will cast Molten Boulder at a party member, which starts rolling in the direction of the player and leaves behind Scorched Earth. The boulder also explodes on impact, dealing damage to everyone nearby. Dodge this ability at all costs, as it not only inflicts significant damage, but it also stuns affected players for 3 seconds. Strategically bait the boulders into areas you won't be using anymore, considering that they still explode if they haven't hit anything within 40 yards. Utilize the available space efficiently, keeping in mind the placement of trash mobs you may have left alive. When the Elemental is low health, it casts Burnout, causing substantial damage to anyone within its fiery circle, just like with the trash, so move out quickly. Finally, Blazehoof's third attack, Searing Blows, serves as a tank buster, applying a potent stacking dot called Searing Wounds to the tank. Tanks should activate their defensive cooldowns, and healers should keep a closer eye on the tanks during this attack. Upon defeating the second boss comes the final section of the dungeon, where you'll encounter Storm Elementals. The little primal thunderclouds are shielded for 66% of their health, and once their shield is depleted, they charge towards a random player and unleash Crackling Detonation, taking themselves out trying to nuke a player. Purge, Mass Dispel the shield, or just AoE them down quickly while dodging their detonation attack. They are also stunnable, but why would you not let them charge and just die by themselves? The packs are also comprised of Tempest Channelers, summoning more thunderclouds, They have an interruptible Thunderbolt, and they also have a Lightning Storm dealing AoE damage you need to heal through and use defensives on. The Storm Warriors reduce your haste and speed if you stand in their Thunderclap, and the Flame Channelers cast Flash Fire on a player, dealing damage to them and nearby targets, but also healing the Channeler for the damage dealt, so interrupt it as much as possible. They also buff themselves with Burning Veins, giving themselves a dot, but increasing their haste by 50%, so you make sure you purge it. At the end of the road, before the boss, you will need to defeat High Channeler Rivati, basically a Channeler on steroids, so you may even want to use Bloodlust here in Fortified High Keys. He also summons little thunderclouds, so watch your feet for the Kamikaze Swirlies, especially when the mini-boss casts Tempest Storm Shield, consuming the nearby barriers to increase his own damage absorption shield. Interrupt his Shock Blast, which leaves a dot on its target if it goes through, and his last attack is a Lightning Storm, which you should pop defensive cooldowns on and maybe even healing potions. The last boss is a duo of a dragon and its rider, and you need to defeat both, so you will need to deal with their combined abilities until one of them is downed. Ranged players can dot the dragon before it flies off, thus dealing some extra damage to it while focusing on the rider. You can either choose to cleave them down more or less equally, or you can nuke one down in order to deal with less abilities earlier on. The dragon comes down when either one of them reaches 50%, and many groups prefer to finish off Kyrakka first, to not have to deal with the fire abilities for the remainder of the fight. So, the dragon casts Roaring Fire Breath, the usual dragon kind frontal attack which you really should dodge, as any fire ability from the dragon will debuff you with Inferno Core, a stackable debuff which not only deals damage but also makes you drop pools of Flaming Embers, and their number increases with the amount of stacks you and the other players have, so you can run out of room pretty fast if you are not careful. Stepping into the pools will reapply the debuff on players, so make sure to get out of their way, especially when Erkhart summons the Winds of Change. This is a platform-wide pushback which will make the players, but also the pools, get pushed back. So if you pre-position them near an edge, they will just get pushed off, keeping your platform clear. While in the air, the dragon will cast Flame Spit on a random player, debuffing them with Inferno Core still. But while on the ground in Phase 2, this will always be on 2 players now in Season 4, down from all party members in previous seasons. During this whole time, Erkhart will Storm Slam your tank, dealing a lot of damage and hitting them with a stackable 100% increased nature damage taken debuff for the following 30 seconds. Interrupting Cloudburst deals nature damage and silences anyone caught casting, so watch out. As mentioned before, Phase 2 starts when one of the bosses reaches 50%, and the fire puddles become more annoying, which is why you may want to finish off the dragon first. However, if your tank is made of paper and can't really deal with the storm slams well, or if your healer can manage to heal through the cloudburst damage, you may want to consider finishing off Erkhart first. That's it for the Ruby Life Pools dungeon. Stay tuned for more dungeon guides and other WoW content. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this guide has been helpful, and if you want to drop by when I live stream on YouTube or Twitch, come and say hi. See you in the next one. Bye!